Hey, Chris, what's up, man? Chris, remind me, which one is PT1 again? I knew you were talking about going with the EJPT, but I didn't remember what PT1 is. Oh, the new Tri-Hack one. Gotcha. We haven't taken a look at that. Maybe we'll do that real fast. Cool, got it, man. Anyway, we'll take a look at that on stream because I had heard they released it, but I haven't taken a look at it. Hey, no worries, Chris. I was looking at those because I just searched for them real fast. Yeah, we'll take a look at it here. It's always good to do a quick review on them. Especially since for the longest time, OPSEC had the only offensive certification, And so it's good to see some competition for them. Okay. So guys, I was getting one more thing set up here. All right, let's get started. What's up, everyone? Happy Saturday. Man, my days are all messed up. I kept thinking it was Friday today. And so I was talking to my wife about stuff. She's like, that was yesterday. I'm like, oh. Well, no wonder why certain things didn't happen. Yeah, let me take a look at this. Okay. I did see your question, Chris. I was just waiting for the stream intro to be done. Seems like an extremely long learning path, so I'm still leaning towards the EJPT, but have a discount on PT1 right now with a solid path that encompasses a lot. So if you look at the charts on the first link, you'll see the cert stack. So would EJPT be smarter per se? I don't have a ton to say about EJPT. I took the PTX when it was a thing, and to be quite frank, it was death by PowerPoint. I was very not interested in the PTX course. So I don't know if EJPT is the exact same way. And so I'm very interested in this PT1 course. So quick overview for everybody who's looking at this is Troy Hackney's new offensive certification. So junior pen tester, they call it PT1. Certificate, it's an entry-level cert, hands-on, built by industry experts to demonstrate real-world adversary thinking and validate your offensive skills to kickstart your career. So this one's I think they just released it. It's new, and I haven't even done any looking into it. I'm sure Tyler Ramsby has. But you can always go stalk his YouTube channel and see if he's got a video on it. Let's see. Industry recognized, flexible learning. Let's see what they're looking at here. Looks like that wants you to do some kind of report writing. So PT1 is modeled after a real-world pen test, not just another can you hack this box. It's can you operate like a real attacker. And then for reporting, deliver a client-ready report that highlights your communication and technical skills through a comprehensive analysis. And then real-world scenarios. Most certs skip AD and underplay lateral movement. PT1 offers full-stack testing across AppSec, NetSec, and Active Directory. Very cool. That's great. I mean, some of them, yeah, they were just, hey, can you hack these individual boxes? That was what the original style of the OSCP was when I first took it. They've revamped it now, and AD is an actual must in there. But even then, I hate to say this, AD is still a huge part of the offensive life cycle, let's call it. But really, a lot of the juicy stuff is moved on to Azure and AWS and things like that. Hey, SM, what's up, man? So right now what you're looking at is like basically the window dressing for the course, which I want to see. Let's see, skills evaluated, how it works. Let's look at this. So you complete the learning, you start the exam, you get certified. Well, isn't that just hunky-dory? What's the point of having these clicks in here if all they do is just change your image? Come on. In my opinion, this should be rearranged. This should be over here, and then a detailed explanation of the steps should be over here. But that's just my humble UX design take on it. All right. Let's see how much this is working here. Okay, so they have a purported breakdown here. Let's see. So comparison for PT1 versus like Pentest Plus, CEH, the PJPT, and EJPT. So we have web app, network, Active Directory, and realistic reporting. So you're not getting anything on reporting for the EJPT, I can guarantee that. Yeah. And the same thing with the CEH or the Pentest Plus. Also, I wasn't familiar with this. So Chris, when you have looked at the EJPT, did they cover anything for Active Directory tradecraft at all? No. Okay. So that might be one of the big things that kind of helps get you started here. Even if it's basic Active Directory, you can do a lot with basics. And then once you start learning more, you can typically do a lot more. So, I mean, just from their window dressing, like their pitch deck, let's call this, it's looking decent for introductory. But now this is where they've actually got the breakdown of what you're learning here. So they have a couple different paths that you're going to start with. So pre-security, basically demystifying the security concepts, Security 101. The junior pen tester, basically learning very, very basic offensive security. Web fundamentals. Windows privilege escalation, the OWASP top 10, always a good one. Linux privilege escalation, always a good one too. I'd be interested to see what they do with lateral movement and pivoting. Let me see if they explain any of this real quick. Oh, interesting. So they've got some stuff in here. I can't show too much because I am a paid member. I don't want to go giving away all their stuff. But that's kind of interesting. Credential harvesting, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be Mimikatz in this case. So hopefully they cover something different, like maybe Rubius. Hang on one sec. I'm going to check it. Let me pop into OPSEC mode. I want to see what they're covering for credential harvesting. Let's see. Actually, yeah, they do actually cover some stuff with Kerberos. Nice. Okay. Very cool. What local Windows credentials? What do we got here? Hey, Code, what's up, man? Thanks for coming online. Yeah, this is what I call OPSEC mode, where I just... Eventually, it'll just kind of blur out the screen, but I haven't figured it out. All right, so they talk about hash dump. Yeah, so some basic... Hold on, I want to look at one more thing. TGT. Anything else in here? Let's see. Windows Credential Manager, domain controllers. Yeah, they cover a decent amount of stuff. Because these are all paid rooms, and so I'm not supposed to stream them, and I don't want to. That's their proprietary material. But I can go take a peek behind the cover and tell you what's in there. Let's see. Report writing, AD basics, and authentication and enumeration. Let's see. Pickle Rick, a Rick and Morty CTF. Nice. That's cool, though. So they have a decent amount here. Blue, I'm pretty sure this was a, if I remember right, Blue, I think was a Eternal Blue exploit. But this is nice because they're leveraging the stuff they've already got built out and saying, hey, by the way, if you approach it in this pattern, this is going to prepare you down this learning path. So it's interesting, especially for the price point. So I remember right, the price was $280, $279 or something like that. Oops, can't show you that. Let me see if I got it over here. There we go. $297. So it's basically $300. So I mean, which is not terrible for what it is. So I thought it's pretty good, especially compared to something like how much the OSCP cost, which is just demonstrably huge. So yeah, that's not too bad, man. Well, I hope everybody's having a fantastic Saturday. Had a pretty good day today. They finally opened up the little kids splash pads, so we were able to take my kiddos to one of those, and they just ran around until they passed out, basically. Usually, especially with Honey Badger, it is always a fight to try and find something that's appropriate for him to eat for lunch. He always wants to eat like a piece of candy. I'm like, no, you cannot have candy for lunch. And today he had run around so much and had just been having a blast. I put food in front of him and it just disappeared. He didn't even question it. Let's see. All right, so there was actually something I wanted to go over before we dug into doing some coding today. There was some really awesome... there was a really awesome domain privilege escalation that came out starting in Windows 2025. So the latest version of Windows Server. And this was really cool. And it has to do, again, like I said, using some of that built-in functionality. So this is not a, hey, I auto-pwn your entire domain. This is if you find a certain set of preconditions, you can then auto-pwn the entire domain. So there's usually always some kind of conditions that have to be met for abuses or exploits or misconfigurations like this to be used. And it was really cool. I was trying to actually read through it and I didn't have the time to. So I wanted to go through it on stream so we can kind of take a look at it and see what they're talking about. So not exploit, but really the attack method is called BadSuccessor. So it's using, this is a brand new concept, DMSA, which is delegated multi-something account. I forget, he explains it in the article. But it's using DMSA, which is a new Windows 2025 domain feature, to escalate your privileges to pretty much anybody. So if you find somebody who meets these conditions, you can jump directly to domain admin. I'm going to skip the executive summary real quick. Okay. So in Windows Server 2025, Microsoft introduced delegated managed service accounts. That's it. So this is a new thing, and it's been essentially designed to replace group managed service accounts. So one of the key features for DMSAs is the ability to migrate existing non-managed service accounts, seamlessly converting them into DMSAs. So there's a conversion process from going from one to the other. So while poking around the inner workings of AD's DMSAs, we stumbled upon something interesting. So at first glance, the migration mechanism looked like a clean and well-designed solution, but something about how it worked under the hood caught our attention. These are the security researchers over at Akamai too. They're very smart. Hey Tatsu, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. Happy Saturday. So as we dug deeper, we found a surprising escalation path. So by abusing DMSAs, attackers can take over any principal in the domain. So essentially, if you find the right conditions, you can jump from any low privilege user with those conditions directly to like domain or enterprise admin. Nice. So all an attacker needs to perform this attack is benign permissions on an organizational unit in the domain. So permission that often pretty much flies under the radar. Let's see. This attack works by default. Your domain does not need to use DMSAs at all, as long as the feature exists, which it does in any domain with at least one Windows Server 2025 domain controller. Which, if you have any of your domain controllers deployed up in Azure, there's a very good possibility that you do have one. Let's see. So a little bit of background on DMSA. DMSA is typically created to replace an existing legacy service account. These to enable a seamless transition, a DMSA can inherit the permissions of the legacy account by performing a migration process. The migration flow tightly couples the DMSA to the superseded account. So you had a basic service account for something like a SQL server, and you can migrate that to being a DMSA instead. That flow and the permissions it grants along the way is where things get interesting. Hey, Dan, thanks for the reset, brother. You know I appreciate you. Let's see, DMSA migration flow. So this is actually where the magic happens, and this is where things get kind of funky, as I was reading through this earlier. Hey, Dev, how are you doing, my main mama? I saw y'all playing, what was it, Black Ops 6 last night. All right. So go back to the migration flow. This could be triggered by calling a certain PowerShell commandlet in here. So start AD service account migration. So internally, it calls a new LDAP root DSC operation named migrate AD service account, and it has a couple of arguments to it. So you pass in the distinguished name of the DMSA, the DN of the superseded account. So what was the old account that's going to be migrated to the DMSA, and a constant corresponding to start migration. So they've got all these various little fields down here where everything's going to be going. So the migration status of the DMSA is dictated by by a new attribute, which is the delegated MSA. New attribute. There is officially no documentation on this delegate MSA state attribute. So the following table is based on our own behavioral analysis and experimentation. Love it when there's no official documentation. So along with this attribute, a few other notable attributes are used during the migration process. So there is, on the DMSA object itself in AD, there's a group MSA membership. And this contains a list of principals that are authorized to use that DMSA. And there's also managed account preceded by link. That is the distinguished name of the superseded account. Awesome. Now, on that superseded account, the one that we subsumed into now becoming a DMSA, there's a couple of new attributes in here. So there's the superseded managed account link. That's the DN of the succeeding DMSA. So basically, you're adding new attributes from the old service account to the new DMSA that link the two together. Is what you're seeing here with this preceded by link and managed account link here. And also, there's a superseded service account state. This is specifying the original account migration state, which is what they were kind of sussing out with this table here. Like I said, this is not official Microsoft documentation. This was stuff that they figured out as they're coming through it. And then here, upon triggering the migration, the operation makes the following changes. It sets the delegated state to 1, meaning the migration's in progress, updates the DMSA's security descriptor to grant the superseded account. So granting the account that the new DMSA account read permissions and write access to the group MSA membership attribute. So this sets the DMSA's managed account preceded by link to reference the superseded account, sets the superseded account to reference the DMSA. Like I said, it makes that kind of cross connection there. Sets the superseded account service account state to 1, basically meaning, hey, we're in the process of migrating this. Hey, Frozen, happy Saturday, man. I don't think I ever played Black Ops 6, even though it looked like it was a fun game, Deb. Deb. I know who you are. So at this point, the DMSA is in a migration state. It's not fully functional yet, but is now aware of which systems are still using the old service account. So that service account is not something you log directly into. Basically, computers use it to have a principal to act as in the domain. So you could have a SQL server, that's its own principal in the network, but then you could have a SQL service account that the SQL program running on the server is actually using to authenticate and move data around. So there's a little bit of a separation there. So there's a few moving parts to keep track of with this. What they're trying to figure out is what machine accounts, basically, are using this service account that used to be there. That's the idealized situation. All right, so once the complete account migration command is issued, the following happens. So we had a start migration account, now we got a complete migration account. So the DMSA inherits key configurations such as the service principal names, the delegation settings, and other sensitive attributes from the superseded account. So the originating account, it copies all those attributes over into the DMSA. Superseded account is disabled. The original account is kaput. And the delegated MSA state and the superseded service account state are both set to 2, which means, hey, we're done. Migration finished. Awesome. So how does this all work with authentication? So now we understand the creation and migration process of the DMSAs, it's time to focus on how the authentication works. Change introduced to support DMSAs and how these changes make the migration process pretty seamless. So let's examine what happens when the SQL Service Legacy service account, one that we're going to migrate into a DMSA, let's say, which is used to run our SQL servers here. So this would be the server account, SQL Server $. That would be the machine account, the account the actual computer uses to talk to the domain. So when the service is required to access resources in the domain, normal authentication is performed using that SQL Service account. So it sends an ASREC to get a TGT, and it gets an AS response. So makes a TGT request, gets a TGT response, essentially. So authentication during the migration. So now we transition the service account to a new DMSA called, let's say, DMSA $, trigger the migration. So during that migration period, when the service account, when the service on the SQL server authenticates to the SQL Server account, keep it straight. This is the SQL Server. It's authenticating as that service account. The authentication is slightly modified. Client sends that same request for the TGT, the authenticating service request, to authenticate as that SQL server, so the old account. The domain controller, this is a fancy way of saying the domain controller. The key distribution center is always the domain controller in Windows. So what it does is it returns an AS response, authenticating system response, that basically sends back the TGT, but that TGT has an additional field, basically saying, hey, this is superseded by another user. And that field name includes the DMSA account. So whatever it's going to be. So the SQL service got went from a service account to a brand new one. It gets sucked into it, and this is how they're saying, hey, by the way, this account is superseded by this new account. Eventually, we're going to turn it off. It's like a warning. So if the host supports DMSAs, which Windows Server 2025 and the latest version of Windows 11 does, and has DMSA authentication enabled, it's going to extract that new name, whatever the superseding account is. It's going to perform an LDAP query for that account and retrieve a couple of attributes. It's going to check the group MSA membership, what the distinguished name is, and what the object class is. Hey, Salty, what's up, my brother? How you been, man? Dude, I'm sorry we've not gotten to, like, get on and play any games lately. I feel bad for that, man. We're just talking about a new Windows exploit that basically lets you go from nothing to something real fast if you meet the conditions. I want to say, one guy even... Hang on, let me see if I can find something real quick here. I believe it was from the guys at BadSuccessor Labs. Yeah, one sec. I think... Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. We can actually look at this here in a second. There is a cipher query that you can use in Bloodhound to find it. Yeah, there's a couple of them. The SpectreOps Twitter account put it out. Nice. We'll take a look at that in a second. All right, so since the service... Let's hop back to this. So since that service is running on this server right here, SQL Server $, the authentication itself triggers an LDAP modify request from Service SQL, which adds that host, so the actual SQL host, the computer, to a list of principals that are allowed to retrieve that new DMSA account password. Awesome. So this is possible because during that migration process, the SQL service account was granted write access to the group membership attribute on that new DMSA account. So this enables it to authorize a host machine to access the account's credentials. Basically, it works a little bit like LDAP. Or not LDAP. Geez, what is it? Laps. It works a little bit like Laps, where there's certain principals that will have permissions to go read that password. That's what it is. Been super busy at work, and I've been playing Gray Zone Warfare. Oh, nice. Yes, actually, I've been wanting to get back into Gray Zone because I wanted to see what some of the updates were. Because it was a fun game, but even when it was a hot, buggy mess. Okay, so here's what happens in this authentication flow. When it comes to so the SQL server is using the service account for the SQL databases, right? Makes a request for a TGT. The domain controller says, does its validation, says, okay, yeah, cool, here's the TGT. By the way, we got a new field here. This is superseded by this new DMSA account. So when this comes back, it's automatically going to make an update saying, oh, okay, well, we want to allow this machine, the SQL server, to authenticate as DMSA. So what happens here is basically SQL Server, this machine, now has read permissions to the password of this new DMSA account. So like I said, very similar to Laps, you can just go in and read the password, if I'm understanding this correctly. Areas of the map can flood now? Oh, that's sick. I'm gonna try that. All right, so this seamless permission grant ensures that by the time the migration is completed, every machine that previously had access to Service SQL is going to be listed in the group membership account and have permissions to read the DMSA. Basically, so it'll have permissions to read that password, and then it can authenticate it against it. So after the migration is complete, so when the client tries to authenticate as Service SQL by sending the ASREC, the request to get the TGT, it no longer receives that response. Instead, the DC responds with a Kerberos error indicating that that account is disabled. Makes sense. You're trying to migrate from the SQL service to the new account. But that Kerberos error will also contain the superseded by field. So it'll tell us, hey, you can't use this account anymore. You got to go use this other one. That allows the client to recognize that Service SQL's migrated and automatically tries to retrieve, and now it automatically tries to retrieve DMSA's password. So awesome. Let's see. So basically, this allows it to transparently switch over to now using DMSA, even though it can't. And that's actually a pretty slick idea. So let's take a look at what happens here. So they make a TGT request. Service SQL's been disabled, right? We said, okay, cool. Everybody's been migrated over to the new DMSA. We disable the old service account. And now whenever you try to authenticate to the domain controller, it says, hey, you can't, this account's disabled, but it's been superseded by this account. Okay, cool. The SQL server now says, well, great. Can I read DMSA's, can I read its password from LDAP? I can. Cool. Okay. Now give me a ticket as DMSA instead. And then it comes over and it basically just does a little sleight of hand in there. Not a bad system. However, whenever you try to get slick with stuff, there's always when stuff goes awry. Let's see. Oh, of course it's in the pack. I can tell by how they've done this. Unexpected behavior. So an interesting aspect of the DMSA Kerberos authentication involves its privilege attribute certificate, or the pack. So when authenticating, Kerberos embeds a pack into the tickets. It's a structure that serves that services use to determine a client's access level. So in a standard TGT, basically the who am I ticket, the pack includes the SIDs, security identifiers, of the users and all the groups they're a part of. So makes sense. It says, hey, by the way, these are the exact identifiers in the Active Directory and where these things live. However, when you're logging in with the DMSA, we observed something unexpected. The pack included not only the DMSA SID, but also the SIDs of the superseded service account and all of its associated groups. Interesting. So you can, in theory, then authenticate as any of those superseded groups. So after migration, I don't know why they put the KDC here. You might as well just put the domain controller. This only exists in Windows land. Basically, the DC grants DMSA all the permissions of the original account. So from a design perspective, that makes sense. The goal is to provide a seamless migration experience in which new account behaves just like the one it replaced. Same SPNs, same delegations, same group principals, or same group memberships. But from the security perspective, this kind of behavior immediately stands out. When we saw a system that automatically copies privileges from one account to another without requiring manual configuration, we've got some questions to ask. How can it be abused? That's always the question. There's never really multiple questions. It's just one. How can it be abused? So that line of questioning led us straight to a key discovery. Interesting behavior of the pack inheritance seems to be controlled by a single attribute, which was the managed account preceded by link. Did we mention that before? I don't remember. So the KDC relies on this attribute to determine who the DMSA is replacing. So when a DMSA authenticates, the pack is built solely on this link. Okay. So if you modify if you build the DMSA and then modify it, oh, I bet that's where they're going. No spoilers. This is further than I've gotten in the article before, but this is really cool. In fact, hang on a sec. We're going to chill out for just a minute because the ads are running over on Twitch. We'll let them chill out because this is really cool and I want people to actually be able to see this. By the way, rocking the orange Jockos again. You can actually see them now because it's not matching the green screen. Hey, Salty, if you're still on, let me know what days you're going to be on Gray Zone, and I will try my best to get on, because I do want to go check out the new stuff. Gray Zone was a really fun game. I think it's going to go... once they start really getting it stable, and start doing some optimizations, because it was totally unoptimized, it's going to be a really fun game. All right. Just a few seconds left. By the way, if y'all hadn't noticed... there's a couple of new things set up on the stream. I'll let y'all figure out what those are. Stuff that one person in particular has been hounding me about. Oh, by the way, I found the dumbest way to keep my computer from crashing. So I've mentioned this before, but this computer has an issue where if the graphics card gets too, I don't know, too chill, too relaxed, the whole computer just crashes out. It just completely eats itself. The only way I've been able to keep it is I noticed that when OBS is running, I don't have to be broadcasting, I don't have to be doing anything. OBS just has to be open. And then the graphics card is perfectly happy. I have no idea. The computer stayed on all day with not a single blue screen, not a single hard crash. Data blockage. I don't know what it is, Brumbo. What's up, man? Happy Sunday. No, Saturday. Oh, all my days are messed up. All right, cool. Hello, mateys. All right, sweet. So now that ads are done, I want to get back into this. So keep in mind here, the key was the KDC, the domain controller, relies solely on this one attribute. And so if you make the DMSA, you're going to have typically by default write permissions over all that object. So I'm willing to bet what they're going to do is they're going to sleight of hand this in there. So what does this look like from an attacker's perspective? Let's explore the possible attack scenario. So the first idea, use a DMSA to create an account takeover primitive. So if we assume that we have permissions over a user account, could we somehow migrate their permissions to a new DMSA stealthily to stealthily compromise them? Sound like a solid plan. So the idea is, could we create a DMSA, start the migration progress between the target user and the DMSA using that basically our AD account service migration operation, authenticate as that DMSA and gain all the permissions over the target user. Only problem, it doesn't work. But this is an important line of thinking. This is what you have to do. You got to hack around and find out. So even if we fully control both the DMSA and the superseded account, we can't perform a migration as the migrate AD service account operation is restricted. So as far as we know, 2 domain admins. Okay, so it's restricted to domain admins, basically forcing that migrate. So it shows an example of a failed attempt. User has insufficient access rights. Makes sense. So our second idea, clearly we need something complex, creative, and deeply technical. We need to explore undocumented behaviors, maybe even reverse engineer some part of the KDC, or we could just set 2 attributes. What am I saying? Think dumber. Think dumber. Although we can't directly perform a migration, we can easily simulate one by simply setting the following attributes directly on the DMSA object. So write the target account's distinguish name to the managed account preceded by link. What did I say? Called it. Number 2, set the delegated MSA state value to 2, basically saying, hey, we're forcing the migration to look like it's complete. Try softer. Oh, dang. Why didn't I think of that? Brumbo. That's amazing. Hang on. Hang on. That was going on the sticky note. Try softer. It sounds horrible and dirty, but if you've ever been through offensive security land, you know that reference, and it's going to be amazing. Try softer. Oh, dang. Brumbo, you just made my night, man. That was amazing. I forgot where I was even reading on this, because you just completely derailed my brain. And I've gotten pretty good at getting back on track after getting derailed by chat, but not this time. That was too good. Okay, we were right here. I remember now. So, although we can't directly perform a migration, we can easily simulate one by simply setting the following attributes. So we change the preceded by link to the DN of the target account we want to take over. And then we basically migrate we set the delegated state to 2. So it looks like the migration's complete. So from this point forward, every time we authenticate as that DMSA account, the domain controller builds the pack using the SIDs of the account linked from that preceded by link, effectively granting us full permissions to the superseded account. Superseded in big ass air quotes right here. Anita Big Click. Thanks for coming online. I almost did not read that as Click. I thought that was a dirty, dirty username for a second. But thank you for coming online. Welcome in. So this is exactly where I thought they were going. After reading the background technical specifications, I was like, wait, could you just do this? And it looks like that's probably what they did. So introducing the BadSuccessor attack. So one interesting fact about this simulated migration technique is it doesn't require any permissions over the superseded account. The only requirement is write permissions over the attributes of a DMSA, any DMSA. So once we've marked a DMSA as preceded by a user, The domain controller automatically assumes a legitimate migration took place and happily grants our DMSA every single permission that the original user had, as if we were the rightful successor. I'm the king now. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the king. Sure, that wouldn't work for a highly privileged account, right? Well, this technique, which was dubbed BadSuccessor, works on any user, including the domain admins. It allows any user who controls a DMSA object to control the entire domain. That's all it takes. No actual migration, no verification, no oversight. So there is a prereq here, though. You've either got to have some kind of special permission where you create a DMSA, which I think previously they mentioned is restricted to domain admins, or you just have to find somebody who has permissions over a DMSA and then perform a little sleight of hand. Sir, I'm a professional. I'm a professional too. I'm a professionally offensive person. I have been professionally offensive for 7 years. Yeah, pretty much key to the city, mateys. Exactly. I'm a highly offensive professional. Oh, this is too fun. I'm glad that my Active Directory understanding was good enough to see where exactly this was going. All of RTO1 heavily paid off in shoring up some of my Active Directory knowledge. That is awesome. I love this. All right, so here's an example exploit. So from a low privilege user to a domain admin. Let's say, well, you might think at this point, well, I'm not using DMSAs in my environment, so it doesn't affect me. So one abuse scenario, so attacker can let's say an attacker gains control over an existing DMSA and uses the access to perform the BadSuccessor attack, but there's actually another scenario which is likely going to be available to attackers much more often. An attacker creates a new DMSA. So when a user creates an object in AD, they have full permissions over all of its attributes. So if an attacker can create a new DMSA, they can compromise the entire domain. That's what I was talking about earlier. That's where I thought they were going with this. So normally when a DMSA is created using the new AD service account commandlet, it's stored in the managed service account container. Although it's possible for users to be granted access to this container, only built-in privileged Active Directory groups have permissions to it by default. So it's not likely we would have that access to that container. DMSAs, however, are not restricted to the managed service accounts container. They can be created in any normal organizational unit. Any user that has either create MSDS delegated managed service account or create all child object rights on an OU can create a DMSA. That's where it's going to come in to be a big issue, because that's going to be a more common permission in Active Directory. So allowing users to create objects in an OU is a fairly common configuration, as the ability is viewed as benign. It's not likely that users with this privilege will be monitored and hardened appropriately. So to create the DMSA, we locate the OU which we had the privileges. Someone created an OU called temp. In our example environment, gives our unprivileged user weak permissions to create all child objects. Nice. Let's see. We can then use those permissions to create the DMSA account using that commandlet, as seen in Figure 7. So while the unprivileged user cannot create a DMSA in the default container, we can use the path argument to create the DMSA in our OU. Okay, so that was the kicker earlier. When they mentioned before creating the DMSA, it was because it was going into the privileged container. So then you had to be a domain admin or some kind of permissibly highly permitted user to do that. Instead, they're saying, well, you could just make it in any OU. It doesn't have to go into that container. Rip Aroni. So we are now the happy owners of a newly created, unfunctional DMSA. But as the creator and owner, we grant ourselves permissions on the object, including write access to both the attributes we're going to use for this attack, which we can then modify in the preceding way. So we set that preceded by linked attribute, basically to any user or computer's DN. Really, if you wanted to, you could even set this to like just a domain controller distinguished name. Then you've got a TGT as a domain controller, and you can just sync down any password hash that you want, and then just spawn Kerberos tickets to your heart's content. And then, again, we had to set that delegated state to 2 to actually allow it to process the tickets appropriately. So awesome. So we were unable to find any configuration that would prevent an account from being used as a superseded target. Maybe that's something... I was thinking, like, even if they added users to protected users group, that would even prevent it. I mean, there's no reason to do it, but I was thinking, what could be a potential mitigation fix? Could they have done that? And the answer is no. Because there's there's nothing in there to kind of block that. They're going to either have to add like some very serious checks to it, maybe extend the schema in Active Directory. I don't know how they're going to fix this. It'll be interesting to see. The whole reason these guys released this exploitation data, though, was because Microsoft said, hey, we don't think this is a big enough issue to fix right now. Migration, just get rid of DMSA. They want people on DMSA, though, mateys. They do. They want people to be coming in and using this. However, it looks like, as usual, they didn't think dumber. And it's like, what's an attacker going to do? Just get permissions over it and change it. That's it. I mean, really, let me think about this. I believe you can set security permissions on a per attribute basis in Active Directory. So one potential fix could be for this is that you absolutely restrict this particular activity to domain admins or to a particular group. So it's not default to create owner. That would be one potential fix for it. Either that or you force everybody to have to put them into the managed container, which would be very antithetical to managing distributed management of your Active Directory environment, which was kind of one of the goals of it. It wasn't supposed to be centrally managed, but in the terms of like by a few people. It was supposed to be you could grant permissions so that people could work inside their work units, their organizational unit. Right. Here's the part I was really looking forward to. Grabbing a ticket granting ticket. Basically, remember, this is the who am I ticket. Once we have this, it's just as good as having a password for an account. So one way to authenticate with our DMSA would be to create a service and configure it to be executed with the DMSA account. Possible but not convenient. Luckily, thanks to our great pull request, Rubius now supports DMSA authentication. We can just request it from our DMSA. So we tell it what the target user is. Oh, sorry, it's going to ask for a TGS, which is fine. Service is going to be curb TGT service. We tell it DMSA, and then the ticket of the machine. Ooh, awesome. Not quite a golden ticket, but it's very similar. So in this case, what they've done is they added... It looks like they've added a machine account to this. I'm trying to see here. Yeah. So the machine TGT would be, hey, by the way, this machine is one that's authorized to... Because remember, these are machine accounts that are authenticating as this new DMSA account. So you compromise a machine, you compromise a user, you combine those two pieces of information together, and now we can start implementing or authenticating as this new account in here. Yep, going to the Willy Wonka factory with this one. That's awesome, though. By the way, whenever they're doing this PTT, what that's doing is it's taking whatever this new ticket that gets returned in, and it's kind of injecting it into your current process so you can just start using it immediately. So for this example, we targeted a built-in administrator account. Using Wireshark, we inspected the pack of the ticket we received, which included the RID of the DMSA, which was 1137, and the RID of the superseded account, which was 500 administrator. So all the group memberships of the superseded account. Oh, and it also contained all the group memberships of the superseded account. So what do we see here? Group membership, 500, 519, 512. 512 is domain admins, 519 is enterprise admins. RIP. Nice. So basically it's saying that now because we set the superseded account to 500, we have that, but also all the groups they're a member of. So this 1137 DMSA user RID, it's going to be able to act as a domain admin or a domain enterprise admin. Nice. This is beautiful. I've been staring at this for hours. I see how you made all the good sound clips expensive. I did say I would get them though, band, didn't I? I need to read deep dive into how Microsoft uses the ticket system. Give me 1 second, Nita, to wrap up this article, and I will give you a 3-minute overview that will help you understand it immensely well. Someday I'll be able to use them. I've got some guys in your band that have like 200,000 channel points. I had to make it a little expensive. I know you use yours all the time. That's okay. Here, just for you, I'm gonna do this one. Hang on.
What, your mom buy you a pewter for Christmas?
I know it's the one you really wanted. I had to go through so many damn hoops to find that. I had to find a copy of the video on YouTube, download it as an MP3, and then edit the MP3 because it was too quiet and boost the sound up in it. Just for that, band, I hope you appreciate me.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Frozen, you're so full of duty. If only I could use it. There's also a cooldown on it for every 5 minutes.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
What I like is the thing up here. It literally says he's a helper. Not. Yeah, I know you'd spam it if it was 200. So that's why I made the really cool ones extra expensive. It only seemed fair if I made the pewter one 31k, then Hack the Planet also had to be 31k.
Let's Echo 23, see what's up.
See, Dan's got like 100,000 channel points. Hack the Planet should be 1337 again. All right, you know what? I will concede that. Hang on, I will go modify that back because I do like that one. Hold on, if I can remember how to do it, I can never remember. Hold on. I had to find these damn menus so many times beforehand. That drops. Where is it? I can never remember where the heck this is. Hold on, I know a stupid way to go find it. Hang on. I'll go fix it. All right, where is it? All right, there. I modified it back just for you, band. I hope you're happy. I'm proud of you for finally getting this done. All right, let's finish up this article here. So, what we were seeing here was that basically, we want every account. If we can just set an arbitrary account to impersonate with this DMSA account, it's immediately going to come in and basically we can set it arbitrarily. We can impersonate any account, especially with the new update for Rubius. So that's all the domain controller needs to treat us as a legitimate heir. So remember, no group membership were changed, no domain admin groups were touched, no suspicious LDAP rights to the actual privileged accounts were needed. We just changed those two attributes, and the domain controller never questions the bloodline. We are the heir apparent. Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. Demo of the end-to-end attack flow. I think that pretty well. Actually, hold on. Let's take a look at this. Hold on. I was going to skip this, but wait. There's more. Abusing DMSAs to compromise credentials. So getting a TGT for any user we want is cool, but we are greedy. What if we also wanted their credentials? Luckily, the DMSA is here for that scenario as well. When you request a TGT for a DMSA, it comes with a new structure called Curb DMSA Key Package. Okay. This structure includes two fields, current keys and previous keys. Oh Lord. Oh God. Why? So according to the MSDN article, these are supposed to contain keys related to the current and previous passwords of the DMSA, and they do, but that's not the full story. We were surprised to see that when we requested the TGT for a freshly created DMSA, the previous keys field wasn't empty. Since it was just created, there should not be a previous password. We ignored this until we realized something looked really familiar. Oh no. The second element in the structure held a single key with a type 23, which is an RC4 HMAC. This encryption type is not salted, which means identical passwords generate identical keys even across users. There's our previous keys, which shouldn't even exist because this was a fresh account, right? And this particular key, years of reusing the same password in a lab environment, finally paid off. We recognized it immediately. It was the key corresponding to AA123456, the password we use in our target accounts during demos. No. 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 I need the Vader no soundboard. Oh, that's so horrible. Why? Why would you do that? I know why they did that. It is a horrible, horrible reason. But I know why they did that. Why would you ever need access to the previous key? You need access to the previous key because if it says that, hey, by the way, you can't log in because the account has been rotated, Microsoft will allow you to go back, Active Directory will allow you to go back to one previous password. How is it going to do that? Well, in theory, this should be the successor of like some service account, right? Where it should have been able to get the password anyway. Instead, it's like, yeah, cool, we'll just go grab your current password because that should be your previous one, right? Oh Lord. Oh no. No, 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 no. Oh, bad. I'm probably jumping the plot here, but let's see what they say. So the managed account preceded by link doesn't just link the DMSA to the superseded account for permissions purposes, it also lets the DMSA inherit its keys. This means that this attack can also be used to get the keys of any or every user and computer in the domain. We can use the key to authenticate with that account. So although we did not analyze the entire implementation, our theory is that the behavior exists to ensure seamless continuity during account migration for the end user's benefits. So let's say we have a service account running with a legacy, we have a service running with a legacy service account. Accounts across the domain request tickets to the service, which are encrypted using the key for the legacy service account. So let's assume we replace the legacy account with the DMSA, the migration completes and the service account is replaced by that DMSA, but the DMSA doesn't have access to the old account's key. So the result is when a client attempts to authenticate using their existing ticket, the server is not able to decrypt it and use the new DMSA key, which makes all issued tickets unusable even though they're not expired. Different path than what I was thinking where they were going with this, but that's essentially the same. So to prevent this kind of service disruption, domain controller includes a previous account's keys in the new key package structure, treating them as if they were the old previous credentials, enabling it to decrypt. That's so bad. So once we understand this, another oddity starts to make sense. The current keys field contains three elements, which consist of an integer, which is the encryption type, an octet string, which is the corresponding key. And you can refer to this page to understand the encryption types. In our case, this includes an RC4 HMAC, AES 256 or 128. The previous key field, however, looks a bit different. It contains only one key, which corresponds to the RC4 HMAC. So why does that key contain only one type, and why is it specifically RC4 HMAC? The answer lies in the encryption type supported by the original superseded account. Service tickets are only encrypted using encryption types that the target service supports, as explained in Harmjoy's excellent blog post. The supported encryption types attribute controls this behavior. So if the attribute is not defined, which is default for most accounts, the system defaults to RC4 HMAC, hence the lone RC4 HMAC key from the previous keys. In other words, the KDC gives the DMSA only the keys from the original account that would be necessary to decrypt the service ticket issued prior to the migration. These are determined based on the encryption type supported by the original principal, which we can verify by checking this attribute. That's, oh God, that's terrible. So we could just go, if we wanted to be super stealthy about this, we could just go set up a new DMSA, request a ticket for it. We don't even have to use the ticket. We just say whoever we superseded by, right? And just steal their password, and then we just use their password. That's it. So we don't have to give away that we're using the DMSA to authenticate as them and inherit all their permissions. We could just use their permissions. Oh, that's wicked. That reminds me of a Nice Tales when he's showing the family colors. Man. So bad, man. All right. Let's take a look here at Microsoft's response. So we reported this to Microsoft on April 1st, 2025, and after reviewing our report and proof of concept, they acknowledged the issue and confirmed its validity. However, they assessed it as a moderate severity vulnerability and stated that it does not meet the current threshold for immediate servicing. According to Microsoft, successful exploitation requires the attacker to already have specific permissions on the DMSA object, which is indicative of elevated privileges. In response to the scenario of creating a new DMSA, Microsoft referenced this KB, which discusses the risk related to the create child permissions. So basically they're saying, we already told you so, you shouldn't have this permission. Yeah, but you don't, do you list full account takeover in there? Hold on, I want to go look at this KB article. Let's see, so this is Active Directory Permissions Update. So this was a CVE from 2021, take actions, let's see. Deployment guide. Let's see. A user has to have, so to exploit this particular vulnerability, user must have sufficient privileges to create a computer-derived object such as user granted create child permissions from an Active Directory object. Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's the only place you mention this in here. That's a BS response, Microsoft. So while we appreciate Microsoft's response, we respectfully disagree. Ditto. This vulnerability introduces a previously unknown high-impact abuse path that makes it possible for any user with create child permissions on any OU to compromise any user in the domain and gain similar power to the replicating directory changes privileges used to perform a DC sync attack. Right. We found no indications that the current industry practices or tools flag create child access, or more specifically, create child for DMSAs as a critical concern. Yep. So what can we do about detections? We don't want to just give away the beef without having some kind of defense against it. So you can set a SACL to audit DMSA creations. So this would actually come through as... Oh, you said configure a SACL to log creation of new delegated managed service account objects, which would be event ID 5137. So definitely, especially if you're not implementing DMSAs in your environment, every single one of those should be a huge red flag. That should set the SOC to like DEFCON 2 right away. You can also do monitor attribute modification. So configure a SACL to for modifications to managed account precedent link attributes. Changes to this attribute are a strong signal and attempt to successor. Now, is this set? I'm not very familiar with SACLs. I'd have to go ask one of my coworkers about this. I don't know if you could set this domain wide, or if you could say, hey, by the way, any object that has this particular attribute and it gets modified, we want to audit. Yeah, they probably thought since it was reported on April 1st, it's a joke. Yeah, exactly. It could be, it pretty much is full domain takeover, just stealthier. Right. Oh, that's terrible. You can also track DMSA authentication. Let's see. How are they doing that with this? So when a TGT is generated for DMSA, it includes the that new key package struct. Domain controller logs event ID 2946. Group managed service account objects. Although this is a DMSA and not a GMSA, we'll show the DN of the DMSA. Okay, cool. You can also just do a permissions review. A couple of mitigations you can do too. Very cool. Now, there was something actually put out by the folks over at SpectreOps for this. Let me zoom in here. So this was some real prod risk seen in Bloodhound. Good grief, that map. each one of those, it looks like it's a group. So think about how many users are probably affected by this, because this isn't even fully exploded. Let me see. Can I zoom in on this picture? Can I enhance? Let's see. Enhance. What can I tell from this? Yeah, each of those is a group. Look, there's one user, so that green one would be a user. Each of these is a group. So each of these groups would just contain multiple users in there. Oh, that is horrid. That's terribad. Yeah, enhance. So they even provided a couple of cipher queries on how to do this inside of Bloodhound. So I love this structure. Actually, once you get used to the structure of the cipher queries, it's not that bad. You tell it what you want to match. So you want to match a computer type object called DC, and it's going to have this condition. Where basically, hey, is it a domain controller? Yeah, true. And the operating system contains the keys of 2025. And then we want to find the GMSA. So you match a user where the GMSA is equal to true, and find the OU path. Bam, bam, bam. Nice. Let's see. Confirm domain KDC key. What are they doing here? So they say the OU domain is the DC domain. Oh, okay. So they're making sure the OU is in the actual domain controller, and the OU domain, basically excluding what they call the tier 0 stuff, the stuff that's highly privileged, super critical stuff. So the principal abuses the BadSuccessor for domain takeover. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, basically, and it doesn't contain tier 0 or system tags, basically containing admin tier 0. Yeah. So then from here we can say, hey, look at this. We can do this. Oh, I like this though. Let's say you don't have a 2025 domain controller yet. Here's like a free Fallout example of what you could figure out. Say, hey, by the way, if we added a 2025 domain controller, what could happen? This would tell you what's the initial fallout of this happening. Yes, this is so because this relies on the delegated managed service accounts, and that is strictly a Server 2025 feature. So as long as you don't have a Windows Server 2025 domain controller in your environment, you're good. However, you have a pretty decent chance of having one if you've got a DC up in Azure. Let's see. One note though, Bloodhound does not currently have all the elements required for a full BadSuccessor audit, namely the delegated managed service account or create all child objects and DMSA nodes. Nice. Okay. That's pretty awesome though. Dude, I've been waiting to read through this, and as soon as I started reading through this, I'm like, this is going to be real good. I wanted to go through it on the stream because there's a lot of security folks in here and new security folks. Every time they think, well, hey, things were so much easier back in the day. They were technically. But realistically, we also didn't have the free sharing of knowledge that we have these days. So this is a domain escalation that's very real and could happen. I'm willing to bet, because the guys at BadSuccessor Labs were tweeting about it, that there's just a huge number of Server 2025 labs going up at Ludus right now. We had Frack and Bug Track. That's right, man. So the issue band is why they can't just fix it is because they have done this to make it as seamless as possible. However, what's happening here, let me find that diagram real quick. What's happening is for this failover to occur, all that information has to be basically modified on the new superseding account, because the DMSA is designed to completely subsume all the activity of the old service account. And so currently only Windows 11 supports this kind of activity as it's going through here. Server 2025 and Windows 11. And it's like one of the more recent versions of Windows 11. Let's see. I think it was this diagram here. Yeah. So basically when it comes back, it says, hey, by the way, I'm superseded for this, and then it adds it over to it. There's this one particular attribute here. Was the this account, this right here, this managed account preceded by link. This one attribute is the linchpin to all of this and the way this functions. And so they're going to have to add in either some additional security checks or security restrictions solely based around this, or they're going to have to go re-architect the entire thing. That's the kicker here. Even more reason not to switch. I know, right? Let's see. I'm not sure even where to check that. Because I know you have different versions of Windows Server you can deploy up in Azure. I don't know what it defaults to. Hey, Cypher, what's up, man? Here, one sec. I will drop a link to it here. That's the actual article from the guys. And I've tweeted it out too, so if you're looking at... if you're following me over on X, Twitter, whatever it's called, I tweeted this out as soon as I saw it. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Too fun. All right, switching gears here. Let's go pull up. Go pull up the lab. Go take a look and see how things are looking here. And see if I can remember what we did since I stopped working on this on Tuesdays. I ran out of Jocko. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. So now I'm drinking cold coffee. Let's see. What was the last thing? I didn't fill out my to-do list, did I? Remember what I was doing for exploit? I didn't. I don't remember what we were working on last time. Let's see. Let's go. Let's see. Exploit. What do I need to work on for this? I left this up because we were looking at something in. One thing we did though is last time we did make an improvement thanks for help with from Band, where now we've got an invoke retry for the LLM. So basically we can take in the LLM runnable and the prompt value and let it go invoke it and be good. So now what it will do is if it gets that overload error, it's going to back off and it's going to retry it. Coffee, I just checked and the sun is officially down. It is decaf coffee. Normally, I'd say decaf is a big cup of why even bother. However, I accidentally ordered like 6 bags of it when I meant to only order 2. I don't know how, and I refused to let that coffee go to waste. So, just a giant cup of decaf. We're going, we don't need the sun. If my Azure account wasn't suspended, I'd be able to tell you. What did you do, Dan? Just import module, invoke, and be good. Yeah, right. Let's see. All right, let's go see where I left off with the exploit agent. I think we got it down to the point where it was getting ready to begin making our initial call here. So let me see. We're going to set up the LLM call. So as long as the task string isn't set to none, we're going to load up the exploit suggestion prompt, where it's going to try and give us ideas on like how we need to approach this. Let's see. Do LLM with tools. Where's our LLM with tools? I think we set that up here. Ah, yeah, we bound the exploit task to it. That's what we did. I think actually I want to take this down. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to bring it down here. Because this is explicitly being used right here. That's what I'm going to do. So, real quick backup. What we're doing is we have our general language model object that the code's going to call. And if we bind a tool to it where we call it exploit task, actually what we're passing into it is that. Where is it? I think it's output format. Is that where we put it? No, it's got to be in states. Where's our exploit task? Here we go. So our exploit task here indicates kind of like what each thing does. Probably what I should do though is I should rename this to I should probably go make a copy of this over in output formatters. And basically, because here's the difference. This is a typed dictionary. And we've got some examples of like, hey, here's what each field does. But these comments, I don't believe, get sent as part of that request. Instead, we might be able to get away by doing, what is it? A doc string in here. If we throw a doc string in here, we actually might be able to get some extra information coming through to this. The output formatters, though, if you notice, they're all pedantic based. So then we actually do have a description for each of these fields and also what the actual type is to it. So it's like an enhanced typed dictionary. I drink non-alcoholic beer. I don't know, I can't even talk tonight. I drink non-alcoholic beer. I don't usually ever drink very much, Anita. I had, I think I had my first drink probably in either 9 months or a year. When I went to Chicago for one day before I had to fly back to Texas. And it's because all my coworkers were going out. I don't get to see them very often. I wanted to go out and actually have like some bonding time with them. They dropped my Azure account because I won't pay them $6 because I'm too lazy to log into the panel and I don't want to pay them for their poopy service. Tell me how you really feel, Dan. Pydantic's really nice and I recently discovered it, but I appreciate the heck out of it because it was stuck using data classes before. I need to dig more into Pydantic. I tell you, I did recently actually start experimenting with some stuff for another tool called Nanite. Or I don't know how you actually pronounce it. How is N-A-N pronounced? Just N-8-N. I don't like that. I'm going to start calling it Nanite. It can also be thought of as Nodemation. Node 8-mation. I like that. Anyway. I'm going to call it Nanite because I like the way that sounds better. Anyway, this is a pretty cool idea. It's a very like low-code, no-code idea of, hey, you can take these nodes and you can wire them up and they're going to pass structured data between the nodes and have it go do some stuff. So actually, I had one as part of my video production workflow I was working on. It's kind of neat. I like it for some things. I don't know how much I would trust it for other things. For just tinkering around, it was pretty fun. I'll tell you, one thing that actually took me a while to understand is like, where the heck do you even plug in the prompts? So here, if you make a little AI agent, you can actually plug in a prompt to it in here. That's where this comes from. It's a neat tool. There's lots of cool ideas in here. Like, let me see, community. Let's see if they've got a list here. I'm trying to figure out where it was. Forum? No, it wasn't in the forum. Trying to figure out where it was. Let's see. N8N templates. Yeah, here we go. So they've got lots of interesting ones in here. Like, let's see. Like, for example, I was looking at some for YouTube in here. And if you're wondering why you're seeing like just a flood of AI generated trash, it's because there's a couple in here where, hey, we literally just send stuff to an AI platform with some text to auto read and it just goes through. Like, for example, actually, here's an interesting one. AI powered YouTube summarization link. So this is actually pretty cool. Oh, you have to buy this one? Can I not interact with it? Weird. But yeah, see all these little nodes in here? Basically just builds a workflow of where things are going. So from a webhook, gets the URL, finds the video ID, gets the YouTube video, does a transcript. Now, I'll tell you this, though. The YouTube one was actually a pain because you have to use OAuth 2, and my individual server that's running at home, because I'm using a self-hosted one, isn't behind SSL, and so it just bitches out at me. Hey, Seth, what's up, man? N8N is great to play around with integrations to automate all kinds of things. It does look really interesting. I was very happy that I could go set it up just to run as a Docker container on one of my home servers. That was pretty cool on it. There's still... it's kind of like a Mac. And what do I mean by that? it has both a very simple learning curve and also a very deep learning curve. So what do I mean by that? If you've never used a Mac before, or it's been a while, you notice that like typically the learning curve for something might look pretty, as time goes on, it might look kind of like linear, right? I'd say Windows is kind of like this. I'd say for Mac, it's actually a bit more like this. And then it just kind of chills out for a while. And then it like really takes off when you want to get doing advanced stuff. And I'd say this second curve is kind of where Nanite is. It's very simple to get started. But then once you want to start doing a little bit more tricky or adding in certain automations or even certain node types, this learning curve can just explode real fast. So for simple stuff, yeah, you can get started with it real quick and then just kind of boom, it blows up. But I did like it. I thought it was really neat. And the idea of like trying to make Hackbot in it though just absolutely drove me insane. Let's see. Why did that happen? Reconnect that. Okay. Yeah, so I think this exploit task here, I kind of want to run this and see what happens. Let me see what we've got here. So I still need to finish up this piece of code. This was actually copied from the recon agent. We need to update it. So we have our LLM with tools, response equals LLM with tools invoke. Actually, what we want to do is on our LLM helper, we want to try LLM invoke retry. So we need to modify this right here. Let's do this. Let's do another response. Because what I want to do is I want to add this wrapper to it, this LLM invoke retry. So that way, if we start getting those overload errors, it's not going to be such a big deal. All right, so what's our first argument we need? We need the runnable. So that's going to be our LLM with tools. And then the second thing we need is our prompt, which is going to be our exploit suggestion prompt. There we go. That should be good right there, actually. So now instead of this, move that up one. That was the original code. So now it's going to call this. So we're taking the same two pieces of information, right? And we're passing it. And then what we're doing is we're calling the invoke here. And we're just making sure that it's fine. So we added this retry decorator. So it's going to retry this 3 times with a delay of 10 seconds each time. Not bad. Because that was what was actually beating us down more than anything was we're getting these overload errors from Anthropic's API that says, hey, the API is overloaded. We're just going to return an error to you. And we didn't have any error handling built into the code. Now we're starting to actually add it in. I wonder if I shouldn't just go rework all that real quick. Let me see. So we've done this in Stinger and Exploit Agent. That's where we've done this. But we have not done this in... let's see, we don't need this in tasking. We will need this in the recon and enum agents, though. Yeah, so like this one right here, we'll need to rebuild. So let's do that. So we'll do... So import that. And the first thing we're gonna need here is we'll do our LLM with structured output. And what we would do is we would pass in the validator prompt. There we go. So we'll have that one now. Let's see, where is all this referenced? Let's see. Let's see, it looks like it's referenced up here. Oh, no, referenced there. really, I think that's the main one there in the validator node. Wait, no, I take that back. In the agent node, we should have that as well. Yeah, right here. This one, we need to do the exact same thing. So let's go change this one as well. So we're going to change all these wrappings. And then that's going to be output format selection, and that would be our output format prompt. Pass that into there. See, who else is using LLM? So we have the same thing right here. So again, we'll do response is going to equal invoke retry. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. That's going to be our LLM with tools, and that's going to be our recon prompt. So who else is using? Oh, got it up here. Be good there. Yep, should be good there as well. And then same thing right there. I think we're gonna have one more down here. Yep, we're good there. All right, cool. So recon agent's done, but we got to do this in the enum agent as well. Let's go to the enum. Yeah, here we go. So same thing here. So we'll do response is going to equal. And there, I must have copied the whole thing. Yeah, it's fine. So we need the LM with the tools, and then we need our enum prompt. There we go. Oh, we gotta import that. Same thing down here. So we'll drop that in as well. And this is going to be our LLM output format selector with our output format prompt. Yep. Validator is also going to need one. So same thing here. So we'll need this one again. LLM with structured output and then validator prompt. There we go. I think that should be the last one that needs it. Handoff doesn't need it. Yeah. All right, cool. I think we're here. Let's see, because this is our exploit agent, right? Yep. And we already have exploit agent added to it. Let me go pull up real quick. Hang on. I'm going to drop in over into OPSEC mode real fast. I'm pretty sure I'm logged out of this system. Log into it real quick. Yeah, it's not doing it for some reason. 1 second. I probably need to restart this anyway. It's going from OPSEC mode to full-blown Blaise mode. I know, right? Well, it's because it's the easiest way for using the just chatting screen is the easiest way for me to basically hide what I'm doing on the screen. All right, there we go. Now it's coming up. Awesome. Well, in theory, it's coming up. We didn't have any errors, did we? No? What's going on? It might just be needing a second to run, but it looks like it was coming up. Oh, it's in the chat. There we go. Hey, now we're talking. Exploit's still showing up just as one node. Is that really how we have that graph set up? Oh, we do. We just have the load pickle set up in here. There we go. So real quick reminder, what we did is that everything happens through this state file, or this state object that gets passed between all the agent nodes. So what we did is we just did a quick check here. If the current task is equal to -1, meaning, hey, no data has been seen in this file before, what we're going to do is we're going to load a pre-pickled copy of the state table, and we're going to bring it up into memory so we can have basically some test data to work with. What this allows us to do is it allows us that if we're testing the entire agent workflow, we can basically take a copy of the state table, bring it over, and we're good. And then we don't have to run the entire workflow again. We can just focus on the exploit suggester. Oh, you know what I also need to do? I gotta go turn on the try-hack box. Deploy the machine. Let that run here for just a sec. And then what I need to do is let's go grab a copy of some data real fast. Except I just realized I got to give it a minute because I need to get the new system IP. Also, I don't think we're on the VPN. I think I turned the VPN off. There we are. Excellent. So VPN's on. All we're waiting for now is the IP address. 10 seconds. Perfect. So once our test machine comes up, we'll do this. I guess I could have gotten some machines from VolHub also where we could have tested this, but you know what? I actually wanted to see what it would be like on a live machine, so this works out well. Let's come drop in our machine here. There we go. And then what we'll do is we will copy this, and then we'll take it over to LangSmith. All right, so here's basically what we're doing is we're seeding the state table right here. Get everything started. For anybody who's new in the chat. So what we're doing is we give it a bunch of, hey, here's tasks that I want you to do, and here's what I want you to go with. That was fast, like giggity fast. I've just done it a lot, man. All right, let's go ahead and run this real quick. I do love the Cookie Monster Frozen. It is my absolute favorite. Are we down in recon? Yeah. Although I wonder what happened to... Continue. What happened here? All right. Let me just make a new thread. I don't know what happened, but it just shat itself. Try refreshing this page real quick. There we go. Now we're starting to get a little bit. For some reason, when the LangGraph Studio first kind of boots up, it can be a little bit odd in how it's doing stuff. What happened? Why did it die? Hold on. Did we hit a system error here? I wonder what's going on. Okay, so we got stuff back from Initializer. We did get our initial tasks set up. And now down here in Recon, what's going on? Why are we not seeing this? There we go. So it's scanning the target with Nmap. Perfect. What we want it to do. Hey, man, thanks for the resub, brother. Always appreciate it. Did your mommy get you a pewter for Christmas? I actually that was what I was working on, Band. Whenever you messaged me on Discord hounding me about the sound emotes, I was actually working on a text-to-speech system for some of that. And then you're like, "Oh, did you finally get those new sounds?" I'm like, "Yeah." So you completely derailed me. I appreciate that. Oh wait, did Nerd just mess up? Oh, it did. Dang it. They got messed up in there. Oh, we got an error in here. Oh, because we added something new. Verdict. Okay. Hang on, we'll have to go fix that here. Let me look at the trace for this and see where this error actually occurred. Let's see. Check if task needs further processing from a blank answer. Okay, so this was in Recon Agent line 150s. Oh, interesting. So what did the response actually come back as? What's our error? Let's see where this error actually came in at. Let's see. So it tried to update the host with scan data from Nmap TCP port SYNSCAN. I knew when you didn't respond for an hour, it just meant like, no. Well, also, that was about the time my kids woke up and I had to go get them because I was working on it while they were napping this afternoon. So in the validator, it said task answer has no attribute verdict. What do we do here? Oh, I think we had... Yeah, I know what happened here. So what we did, I think we need to modify the task answer in... I think that's in output formatters? Yeah. So task answer had a question and answer option here. Yeah, so basically remember, if we do... What we did is we did LM with structured output. So this works a little bit differently than the kind of hackish way we're doing it when we do it with tool calls. When we do it with tool calls, it's in theory returning something that should be passed to either like a function or something that's like formatted JSON you could send to an API, right? But we can also use it to tell it to most appropriately pick an output formatter. So one of the output formats we have is Nmap, and then we also have like a standard output format. We had one in here for GoBuster. In fact, I'm just going to take that out because we don't need it anymore. Where it comes back, Nmap had a lot of special considerations, so it got its own output formatter in here. But for some of these other ones, what we were doing is when we do it with a structured output, this response actually comes back as like the structure of whatever we're passing it. So what we were passing this was task answer. Task answer is right here. So this one shouldn't have been verdict. This should have been answer. check if task needs further processing for a blank answer. That's what this should have been right here. So if the task was if the response for the answer was blank, we say, hey, it's unanswered. We need to do a further assessment of this. Else, what we do is we change the status to validated, and then actually this should not have been answered because this was in our task list, right? So our task list here. So we do state tasks, right? So our tasks, let's see, where is it? So task is a list of the task object, right? The task here, where is it? Task is right here. And we used to have this be answer. This needs to be verdict over here. We want the verdict to be the response, which is going to be the question and answer. That's what we want. Yeah. So I messed this up. I changed this to verdict when it should have been this changing to verdict in here. That's okay. We can just do it again. Start. So I'm starting back to work full-time on Tuesday. I've basically been on leave since mid-March. You guys are, if y'all remember, when was that? 2 weeks ago, like on the 13th or something? No, like the 6th? I was starting back to work, and that was when my dad passed away, so then it just kind of got extended since then. So I'm looking forward to kind of going back into it, and I'm hitting the ground running because apparently we have Monday off, but then Tuesday we get back from Memorial Day, and I'm jumping like right into a new assessment. I don't know anything about it yet. And I think the coworker I'm working with is in Australia, so I don't know what the time difference is going to be. I'm going to find out. Let's see. What's going on with host update now? Damn it. Air it out again on us. I probably screwed this up against somewhere else. Let's see. Task answer has no attribute verdict. Now, where was this? Oh, line 167 in validator. Yep. And this is why I wanted to go through and fix this, because what used to happen is this right here where it says verdict, this used to be answer. And then the task answer that was nested underneath it was a question answer. So it used to say answer, question, answer, answer, answer. And I was like, this is going to confuse the crap out of me. So I was like, we changed it to verdict. What's the verdict of the task? Was it actually answered correctly? Interesting first day back. It will be. But you know what? I've been kind of excited to go back to work because not only do I miss it, but I feel like my skills are getting rusty. At least my Python skills have not, though. From this little project, they've expanded and gotten better. I was thinking about something earlier today. So a while ago, I applied for a position that I wasn't thrilled about, but it was paying stupid money. It was with Amazon, and it was something called, I think they called it detection engineering. So the idea was you would get exploit reports or vulnerability reports, and they would come in and you'd have to validate them and classify them. But then it basically, like everything else at Amazon, became a big data problem. You then needed to develop some way of going through and enumerating the entire Amazon IT space to find out where this potential bug existed. So it was a really interesting position, not one I was super thrilled about, but it was one I could have done. I've done a lot of modifying of exploit code to turn it into scanners, essentially. But one of the things they had you do was they had you do like a code audit, a review. And I remember I went through that thing and I just ripped it to shreds. I had gotten really good at reading code really fast, and especially for security issues. So I go through it and I'm like, yeah, this is jacked, this is jacked, this is jacked. I found something like basically like every other line of this example Python script they gave me. And the guy's like, wow, nobody has ever found that much before. I didn't end up getting the job, but I just think that was a nice compliment. Netflix janitor? Yeah, kind of. It probably will be fun. I do have a lot of fun on these assessments. Typically, what happens is, hang on, let me see if I can find something. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it where somebody wrote this real quick. I can't find it. Essentially, it was a graph, though, talk about like whenever you are starting a penetration test, how you feel about it. And it was spot on, and it still happens. It happens to like even the best of us. It looks something like this. Like how good am I over time, right? And when you first start the assessment and you're like, yes, this is amazing. I am so cool. I'm the best. I'm the leadest ever. And then it's like, wait, do I really know what I'm doing? I'm a fraud. They're going to find out, hey, maybe I should take up plumbing or become a farmer. It's like, wait, what's this? Oh, what is that thing? Oh, God. Why? I wish I had just like one more day. Oh, God. That's exactly what happens on every penetration test. Every single one. You always get to that point, and then it's like, bam, time to write the report. No, I just needed one more day. Number of times I've owned stuff the final day of the assessment. Yeah. Dude, it's always funny. It seems like everybody who works in offensive security really thrives under pressure. It's actually, that is like the 80% of them. They thrive under pressure and like really get stuff done. And then there's the 20% that are just like cold Terminator-esque robots. And they come in and they just systematically start sniping everything. It's just like, and they've just absolutely obliterate the environment. Yeah. One of the guys, oh man, if he gets to release this at Black Hat, he has submitted this talk for Black Hat, one of my coworkers, and the dude is a straight up level 20 tech wizard. If he gets to release this stuff, I will see about either having him come on the stream to like explain it, or getting like some fun stuff where we can do it on stream. It is doing some absolute wizardry with some Windows internals. I don't want to give away too much to it because, like I said, he's developed a cool toolkit and written up a really neat research paper on it. And he showed this to me on my last assessment in a very hardened environment, and it was the thing that saved our bacon the whole time. We went through, and I was like, yes, I'm so glad we have this now. I literally had a call with the customer one day. Oh, everything is fine. Later that same day, the sky is falling down. Yeah. And that was pretty much the way we used to do it at my previous place. Band is if we found a critical that needed to be addressed immediately, we would set up a call with them and be like, hey, by the way, we found something and you need to address this right away and close this gap immediately. And what we typically would do is we'd set up some kind of alternate access to allow us to simulate that same level of access, even though we've plugged the hole. And that way we can continue on as if that had not been addressed. Bring him on. I will absolutely ask him set. He is a really cool guy. Everybody I've worked with at my new company, they've been really great. And I have just really enjoyed it. They've all been, especially through like all the trials I have been through, in just the 9 months I've been there, they've all been just stupidly supportive and really great to work with. I cannot say enough nice things about everybody there. And now don't get me wrong, at my previous employer, I really liked working with the folks on my team. But outside of that team, there were only a few other teams that it was really good to work with. There were some others where it's like they didn't really like put in a lot of effort, and you could tell. Even though I loved every single one of those people, professionally and like trying to get stuff done, it was like pulling teeth. We were doing an assessment, and it was the last day. We had no findings, really. Then all of a sudden, I gained access to a dev environment, which they messed up, and it had AWS keys for prod. RIP. Rip-a-roni. The sky was falling down as we got into the root AWS account. Nice. Nice. I was hoping that Hackbot was going to be a little bit further along than where it is now, but that is very typical for me. I usually always set very ambitious goals. And I was hoping that the exploit and post-ex agents were going to be done by the end of June. Realistically, that looks like that's not going to happen. But it is what it is, because at the end of June is when I wanted to start digging into AWS and Azure security some more, and then trying to expand Hackbot to bring that information over into it. Now, there's nothing that says I can't start doing that. It just, actually, no, there's nothing really. There might be some challenges with the toolkit that's available. The tooling can be a bit rough. So either we'll need to re-instrument tools for the agent, or figure out another solution where it has easy access to execute those tools. Because a lot of the tools are written in, they're either PowerShell or C#, because they're in Windows land for Active Directory, or for Azure. Having a solid recon phase is a big accomplishment. I mean, it is not solid, I would say, Band, but it is functional. And I really want to expand to that. So eventually the idea is, whenever PowerShell, ew, I know, man. There was eventually though, the idea is that we'd be able to go create new agents and plug them in the appropriate areas. So like if we had an Azure Recon bot, then we could take that, we could go plug it into the Recon agent, and then it's another tool that it has where it says, hey, by the way, we found this stuff. Let's go pass this information over to the Azure Recon agent and let him take over and do stuff. So we'd have what I was calling like these second level agents. So Recon, Enum, Exploit, PostEx, those would be like our first level agents. And then we'd have second level agents where they specialize in like an individual task. So maybe we'll start working on one of the second level agents just to get a little bit ahead in that, because I think that would be super handy. One sec, let me find something. Speaking of PowerShell, yeah, here we go. I felt this in my soul though when I read this post from this lady I follow on Twitter named Trash Puppy, and it's literally just, I won't let PowerShell ruin my mood, over and over and over and over. And I had to break it to her that repetition doesn't make it true. I felt bad for her because I know that feeling, because PowerShell's syntax is Terabad, second only to Rust. Pizza delivery is on its way, and this lab is cooked with acid. Nice, man. You know what? That was like one of the few things that I still miss, like when I'm actually eating clean, when I'm eating carnivore regularly, is pizza. I do still miss it. Let me go rerun this. Now that we cleaned up some more of the... Actually, no, I didn't clean up the code. This was line... I gotta go double check this. 167 in validator. Yep, I think that was, again, the answer verdict mismatch. Fix this real quick. Yeah, this should have been answer right here. Yep. Yes, that's good. I think that should be good. Let's go try this again. My problem with PowerShell goes way beyond the syntax. That was pretty much my only beef with it, was the syntax is just horrendous. Trash Puppy's really cool. She went from a paramedic to a pen tester. Dude, that's a big career change. See, Chris, think about that. She went from, it's still a technical field, right? And you were on a fairly technical field too with SEO stuff. Went from being a paramedic to a pen tester. So don't feel like you can't make this change if it's something that you really want to apply yourself to. Oh, she was the ER nurse? Hang on, Chris. I'll tell you what her name was. Trash Puppy. There she is. TRSH Puppy. And so, yeah, she posts some pretty funny stuff in here, too. My problem is C and C++ was how they do stuff right. Then it became C#, then PowerShell. Then slowly back to C#. What's old is new again. Yeah, I know, right? All right, did we error out again? I think enum errored out probably in the same way. Yeah, task object has no answer validate. Yeah. So we'll have to go fix those again quick. Because the enum and recon agent are essentially reskins of the same code. But that's fine. Let's see. This is probably down in validator, if I remember correctly. Let me pull up the trace real quick. And where did this happen at? Let's see. 156 in validator. Yeah, it's the same validator error code. Let's see. 156. So this should be answer. And then down here, this should be answer as well. And this should be verdict. There we go. Because this is referencing the task field in the state, which we renamed to verdict. But when this response comes back, it's going to come back with basically two fields. It's going to have question and answer. What was the question to be answered by the task, and then what was the answer to that question? When everyone's jumping on PowerShell, I was still working on C++. I feel like I missed a lot of the PowerShell exploitation bandwagon too, with the exception of evil, like WinRM, and stuff with like evil WinRM. I made a lot of good use about that. I had one time where I was working in an environment, and it was an environment where they said, "Hey, we have a like our primary network over here." Right? And then they had some kind of firewall here. And then they had a secondary network over here. Like, let's call it a secure network. And they were certain that there was no way to jump from primary to secure. Well, what I found out is this domain, let's call it domain.local, was exactly the same as this one over here. Oops, can't spell that right. Domain.local. So what happens, right? You know that these two machines have to be able to talk to each other. They're in the same domain. They've got to be able to share replication data. So what did I do? I forget how I did it, but basically got DA over here. I hopped up to one of the domain controllers. I rode this link across and then completely owned this one as well because I was already a DA. So now I'm a DA over here. And then I dropped down into, like, I don't know, some secured server down here. And I was like, hey, I've got access to this. I sent them a screenshot. I was like, do you want me to do anything else? And they're like, no, please just stop there. That proves the impact plenty. And it was a pretty sensitive server. I don't want to give away what it was, but they were certain there was no way to cross that firewall. But understanding the base technology, I knew those domain controllers had to be able to talk to each other. So I literally used WinRM and PowerShell remoting to just jump across the domain. Jump across that firewall on the domain controllers. Let's see. All right, got those fixed. Let me fix something here. Save this. Okay, so that's going to propagate those changes. Let's do it again in a new thread and run it. There we go. All right. So while this runs real quick, guys, I've got to go to the bathroom and go check on something. So I'm going to do a 3-minute ad break because that will carry us through the rest of the stream. So we'll let this run. We'll come back and we'll check the data. Go ahead and grab some water, grab a stretch on your legs, and then we'll hit this again for a little bit. So be right back. Wait, that's the wrong button. There we go. That's not the right button. There we are. Wish I could get some Blaise Bits merch. I've got a list of like funny things I want to make. Let's see. What's going on in the recon phase right now? Did it just crap out on us? What is it doing? It's running in mapping. Instance been terminated. What? It hasn't been up for 2 hours though. What happened? What didn't work? I was like, what is going on here? It's like completely hung. Dang it. Dang it. Stella. I found some streams from last year on Twitch of the ER nurse Trash Puppy. Oh, cool. I'm amazed that streamers can hustle and engage with chat. It's just a matter of practice, Chris. Essentially, and also I've had a lot of experience teaching, and you get constantly dealing with interruptions during teaching. Like I taught a lot of stuff. I taught martial arts. I taught Cisco networking. I taught Bible school for like young kids, constantly interrupting. Right. I've taught courses at Black Hat, which originally actually didn't get a lot of interruptions. People were very just, take it all in. I wish they had asked more questions, but I just have a lot of experience teaching. Hey, Yamerson. So what we're working on is, once it comes back up, building a little AI agent bot. In fact, here, this actually will let me see if I can shrink this down. So this little AI agent that we're building in LangChain, or LangGraph, should come through, and we're trying to get it to play a Try Hack Me CTF for us. So it's a very simple box. It's super easy. You can probably complete it in 30 minutes if you halfway understand what you're doing. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build out a framework to be able to solve these kind of capture the flag challenges from Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. And so we're starting with a very basic example. This one's called Root Me. It's one of the oldest, easiest boxes that you can do on Try Hack Me. So this is our base test case. And once it's able to complete that, we're going to start expanding its knowledge base a little bit, expanding its functionality, adding new tools to it, and letting it go through and try to attack several more boxes in here. Eventually, hopefully turning it to a system that can play like a multi-system CTF. Something like Game of Active Directory, where it has to actually exploit Active Directory and move between systems. I'm inspired to try and write some Python code in a different language like C++ or C#. Dude, do it, because especially if you want to try to learn a new language and you're familiar with another one, even if you can't, let's say, write that code necessarily, understanding and getting to the point where you can read it really well and break it down and then go implement it in a new language is a great way to start picking up that new language, especially if you're really thinking about it. There's only one section of this code that I used anything vaguely AI related, and it didn't even actually give me workable code, but it gave me the framework I could use to write the code from scratch, which was this one right here. This was where we integrated LangChain with RoboPages. So RoboPages are a tool calling server. Serves up all the tools that we want to run in a Docker containers, right? But there was no great way to present these as, hey, here's how we could build this and make these tools that were usable for LangChain and therefore LangGraph. So this piece of toolkit right here is probably actually the most interesting code in this entire bit, where LangChain and RoboPages get integrated to each other. And I did use I think I used Grok to try to generate this, and it did a piss poor job of it, but it did give me the basic overview of how I should structure it so that I could go build it out myself. Oval Mob, what's up, man? Welcome in and happy Saturday. You should take something from Python and write it in C. Oh, God. Actually, that was one of the reasons why I had suggested to a couple of folks, hey, if you're not familiar with the coding language, start with C++. Not straight up C, but start with C++. Start with a strongly typed language. You could even nowadays start with Go. But going from strongly typed to non-strongly typed, so something like Go, C, C++, C#, to something like JavaScript or Python is much simpler than the converse. You try to go from a non-strongly typed language like JavaScript or Python, and you try to go to something like C++, it's typically much more difficult. C++ was my first university language. Same here. We actually had a C++ class that I went through in high school. And it was funny because the teacher told me that I couldn't take the class because I was in remedial math. Now, you might find that funny, but that's because in high school, I never did any of my homework. Go figure. I was a very solid C-D+ student. And so eventually, once I had, gotten enough math to where I could go do that, they let me in the course. And that was one of 3 courses that I had a 100 grade in. It was chemistry, ROTC, because it was really hard not to get 100 in that. And then the computer science class. I had hundreds in all those. It was like 68 to 72 was like the grade in every other class. I liked English so much, I took English 3 times in high school. And I didn't actually like English that much. I was just that much of a screw off. C's get degrees, they do. And that was actually kind of crazy too, Chris, to think about it, like, because going from being in remedial math in high school to I was 100th of a grade point away from graduating with honors with my math degree. I had a 3.49 and you need a 3.5 to graduate with honors. And I blame modern European history because that was the only class I got a C in. Okay, so Recon is doing its thing. Sweet. Interesting. Recon Validator said the task was unanswered. Let's see. Let's view the state table right here. So this should have been current task, which would be 0. So task 0 was scan the target, how many ports are open. Verdict came back as null. Now hold on, what did we get back from this? So why did the validator come back as saying that it was unanswered? Let me go open the trace up on this, because I suspect there's an error in the code. Let's see here. Where's validator? There's output formatter, there's host update, there's validator right here. Okay. So after the host update happens, we've got a host, we've got a list of ports. We don't have a list of ports. Why not? Wait, what the heck? Oh. Did I have a typo in the IP address? Yeah, I sure did. Oh shit. It's scanning something out on the internet. Stop. Stop. For the love of God, stop. I copied the wrong IP address. FBI, open up. Yeah, I know, right? Thankfully, port scanning something is not such a big deal. Okay. I was like, why is it not coming back with anything? That would be why, because we're scanning the wrong IP address. So the correct IP address was 10.10.218.240. Oh, and we were scanning 110, 10, 218, 240. Yeah, that will be a big difference to it. All right. Do it again. Better hope it wasn't a military base. That's all right. I'm probably already on their watch list, Dan. That's an... Oh, actually, thank you. You just reminded me. That was another t-shirt idea I had. If you're not on a watch list, are you even trying? There we go. That was another stupid t-shirt idea. If you're not on a watch list, are you even trying? I took linguistics as my first degree, kind of based on what you said. Yeah, that's awesome though. I wish I spoke more languages. Took me years to realize I could actually program well. That's actually what I feel about with a lot of things. When it comes to technical things, I think that a lot of times it's not the student, it's the teacher. So I feel that way especially strongly about math because my 6-year-old son, codenamed Agent Zero, he actually is understanding a little bit more advanced math. I was working with him on the concept of momentum today. You know, just mass times velocity. Because he understands multiplication a little bit. He's not really good at it, but he understands it. And we were talking about like how fast, we were trying to figure out a little bit of problem. How fast would his little brother, Honey Badger, have to run to have the same momentum as him? Well, thankfully, Honey Badger weighs exactly half of what Agent Zero does. So we were able to go through and quickly find out, okay, that means that Honey Badger has to run twice as fast as Agent Zero to get the same momentum. When we did this. So we just did a little experiment during dinner. I had already eaten dinner earlier. He was eating dinner because I was letting him play on the Nintendo. And as he's doing this, I'm just doing a little example for him. And I really believe that a lot of times it's just the teachers aren't presenting the material well. I'm thankfully very blessed in being able to be a good teacher with a lot of experience on it. I had an intern put in a /2 in Nessus. Oh no! Oh no! Here, let me just scan half the internet for you. There you go. Dude, I'm surprised Nessus didn't just crap out its eyeballs when that happened. The good news is, looks like enum is actually functioning. I'm an amazing problem solver, but I'm a mediocre coder, but I'm stubborn. Dude, a lot of times the stubbornness is super important though, Yammers, because just having a lot of times that work ethic gets you farther than that. I tell Agent Zero that all the time. I was like, hey man, you're smart, but don't rest on that because the hard worker will beat the smart worker. Because a lot of times they will rest on that laurel, right? If you are smart and you work hard, then you can like just really crush it. Those are the people that people remember. I don't know if airports would like that one much. Kidding, man. Your wife will appreciate you being next to you in public with that. Yeah, probably. Hey, Netflix, what's up, man? Agent Zero is my 6-year-old son. That's his code name. Yeah, so for everybody who's new, welcome in. I love you. Happy Saturday. My name is Blaise. I have been a hacker or some form of cyber degenerate basically since the 2nd grade. I've been doing that professionally for the last 7 years, and I've been working in IT for the last 15 years. And for code names, my wife is the SOC, S-O-C, the Supportive Organized Caregiver. My 3-year-old son, formerly known as APT, the Advanced Persistent Toddler, is actually now codenamed Honey Badger because he's not really a toddler anymore. And then my older son, who's 6, he is codenamed Agent Zero, since he's the first element in the children's array. Hey, what's up, man? I love the lore already. I'm glad, man. I just like to have fun, dude. I come on stream, we heckle, we write some code. Everyone gives me crap about the code. And we have a good time. It's a great place to hang out. Take a break from game dev and just jumping into random streams. Dude, welcome in. What kind of game were you working on? I have actually considered trying to perhaps build an interface to Hackbot in something like Godot, or as I like to call it, Godot. But I don't know how much I'd have to learn for that. I just thought it would be a fun exercise to do. I used to play Xbox with an Agent Zero. I had to double check that you weren't my arch nemesis. No, if you want to message me on Discord, in the Discord server, my username there is actually Blaise of Glory. Blaise Bits is really more of the channel name. Okay, we got somewhere. Let's see. Did we get all the way down to the exploit agent? Oh, actually, things were going okay, but it looks like something shat itself. So this is a condition you can hit in LangGraph. Hang on, let me hide my big head here. You can get what's called a graph recursion error. Basically, if it passes through more than 25 nodes, you can hit that graph recursion. I believe there's a way to fix that, but this might be an error, this might not. Let's go look at it over in the trace real quick. Enum may have gotten stuck in a loop, and if that's the case... Yeah, it looks like it did because they kept trying to use the Katana headless crawler, and that, I think, constantly errors out. Actually, no, it doesn't. It looks like it might have finished. But, let's see. Katana... Go Buster. Yeah, it looks like we either might have actually just hit the node limit or we got stuck somewhere. So let's take a look at what happened here. So we hit the enum agent. It does the initial pre-flight check for the validator here. Let's see what the call was. All right. So the task was what was running on port 22. It did answer that correctly. We got back OpenSSH. Perfect. And then, so because of that, it addressed this task. It's going to switch to the next task. So let's look at the next one here. Next task was what version of Apache is running. It did come back with that. It said it's running version 2.49. Perfect. And then we came back to the validator again for whatever the next task was. So the next task was use GoBuster to find hidden directories. What is the hidden directory? And this one came back as unanswered. Perfect. It shouldn't because we haven't run GoBuster. We haven't done any directory brute forcing. We don't know what the hidden directories are. So what's the next thing it does? Goes to the router. It runs GoBuster. It comes back. It finds a bunch of stuff. One of the things it finds is a server status. And did it not find our panel? Let me see. Because it should find panel and uploads in here. Did we not find panel and uploads? Ah, there they are. They're behind me again. Panel and uploads. These are actually the two hidden directories that we wanted to find in here. Now, for some reason, this is like in a really weird format here. I don't get why that is. Oh, because I think we have some potential new lines in here. Yeah, there's new lines nested in here. That's why it looks this way. Okay, that's fine. Go Buster, I hardly know her. You know what? As much as I have used that tool, Netflix, I don't think I've ever heard that joke before. So kudos on the new joke. Let's see. I've been playing with agents recently myself in my home life. Oh, wait, sorry. Wicked, you actually told me what the game was. So you're working on a sci-fi game inspired by Star Citizen and Star Trek, but with an RPG element like Cyberpunk. Ooh, nice. I do like me a good faction-based RPG game. What the heck? I tested that earlier. Echo 23 should not have done that. Hang on. Piece of crap. Did it not save the update? I'm gonna be pissed. No. Scams. Scams. Crap. Hang on. Hang on. That's some bogusness, because I worked so hard on that to get it fixed for you, Band, after you kept giving me crap about it. Hang on. I know I fixed this earlier. Oh, you know what? I think I know what happened. Hang on. I think it has to do with... Yeah, dang it. It's because when I was trying to find something, I accidentally created a new... So basically, here, I'll show you. I'll show you on the back end here. So when you're looking at like Twitch rewards, there's like a hunt order. This was a brand new, like very basic any point reward thing. And this had been at the top of the queue up here. So each of these has a specific condition. This one had a condition of, hey, I'm just going to run anytime a channel point is redeemed. So I know I had these working earlier. Hang on one sec.
Let's echo 23, see what's up.
There we go. Gremlins in the code. Yes, they are. Buy floppies new. I think there's a command to give channel points. Is it points? Hold on. Let me see. Let me see if I could refund that to you. Have to go into the mod menu and do it. I don't even know how to use the mod menu, man. If we're dishing out points, I don't need that kind of power. Well, I mean, I feel bad. You know, feel bad. You let your points got sucked into the black hole. Anyway, so the redeems now should work properly.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
There we go. That, honestly, I should make more expensive, but you know what? I just picked a random number for that one. Give me those infinite floppies. No, never.
Fight the planet!
That planet. All right, let's get back to this. So what was happening here? So it looks like it did find the two hidden directories. Output formatter came back. What was our verdict on the answer here? What's the hidden directory? Panel. Perfect. So panel is the hidden directory in here. So that after it finds this, what are we going to do? I believe that was this one right here. No, that was in validator. That was an agent tool node, and then agent says we want to use the Katana headless crawler against the correct IP address. Perfect. What does Katana come back with? It actually does come back with some data. We go to the output formatter and update. So how does the update actually look? Initial access exploit. Where did this get changed? Because I want to know where this host initial access exploit. This should have not been ever set to unknown. This should have been left blank, really. Click on the points, the three bottoms in the top right corner, and review request. I don't know where that is. Oh, hold on. I think I see where it is. One sec. Nope, that's not it. All right, I'll figure it out. I know, I'm a terrible Twitch mod. I wish GoPro was on because he would know where to do it. Or just click that. Okay. Let's see. Is that stuff from like last year? There we go. Reject. Okay. There we go. Oh, there you go. Okay, you should have your little channel points back. You got your floppies back. All right, so let's see here. So validator, did it come back? Oh, so it didn't find, so a crawl discovered directories, what URLs have upload forms? Okay, so the problem here is it's not looking for the hidden directories. What it's doing is it's just crawling the discovered directories. Because when we ran this, the tool call to Katana just goes to root, right? It goes to this target. This was something we ran into where it said, hey, we don't know what to do here. Got his tank top and his flippy floppies. I'm on a boat. Yeah, that was an issue we kept running into here, was how do we get Enum to try this? So it ran Katana 1, 2. My scroll wheel's going nuts. 1, 2, 3. And this is, I think, where it actually errored out on us. And that's where it said, hey, we've hit the recursion limit. If I recall right, it's because you used hidden and then discovered. Yeah. Well, also, it's an issue of... You know what, actually, Ben, now that I think about it, let's look at something real quick. Let's come over to Enum Tools. Let's look at our input here, right? So if we look at the host, what does the host have? We got an IP address, we got some port information, and then we have some scripted output about, hey, this is what's coming back. Like, so we have directory enumeration, right? This is great because now we've got a lot of raw data, right? What we don't have is a little bit of contextual data to this. We kind of do. What I'm thinking about, though, is... So that answer that comes back, right? Here's what I'm thinking. The output formatter, so we go back to this task answer, right? It's got a question and an answer to it. I wonder if we should not be appending that over to the host. I think there's also some tweaking to be done with GoBuster. We can tell GoBuster we don't care about 403s. So let's try a couple things here. Let's say, we go over to the GoBuster GitHub. This is for sure. So this would ignore certain links. I'm pretty sure there's certain like response codes we might want to ignore too. Never done this kind of program. Is the idea that you're trying to use the metadata to create some kind of flag to find a hidden to find hidden or discovered. Kind of, not so much a flag in this case, Yammer. So what the exploit path for this example is, they want you to, and let me show you. So here on TryHackMe, they have like this kind of guided mode, and recently Hack the Box kind of added this as well. So it walks you through. The first step is, hey, deploy the lab machine so you can access it. The second one is do reconnaissance. Scan the machine. How many ports are open? So what we did is I've taken each of these individual tasks and I have built them into a task list that we're sending to the AI agent, and it's trying to address them and answer them. So we've wordsmithed them just a tiny bit in here. So like we combined these two together, find the hidden directories on the web server and then answer what those hidden directories are. And it specifically says use GoBuster. So what you end up finding is you find a hidden panel page in here. That hidden panel allows you to upload files. You can end up uploading a PHP file with a remote code execution backdoor, and then you can get a shell on the system. And it gets uploaded to a predictable directory, which is just /uploads. And so what I'm thinking though is there actually should have been two in here. So I think there's two ways we want to address this. If we look at the output from GoBuster real fast. Where was GoBuster? Here we go. So from GoBuster, you see we get all of this kind of like fugly data. But if we look at panel came back as a 200, uploads came back as a 200. It's also not uncommon for like everything to return as a 200. I've seen that as a web scraper crawler, basically anti-defense, where even the 404 page comes back as a 200, but when you render the page, it says it's a 404. It's a dirty, annoying thing that's actually not very hard to defeat. But anyway, the rest of these are coming back as 403s. So what I'm thinking is we might want to go through and tell it, hey, ignore 404s and 403s. I don't do cybersecurity, so it's very interesting to watch. Dude, that's no problem, man. If you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask. This is an absolute learning stream, and I like teaching folks. I like explaining things. This is when you start getting into deeper into things. Yeah, so if we can tell it to, let's see, GoBuster, ignore 403. I know there's an option in here. So attack S is 200. Let me look at here. Let's see, DNS mode. Error mode. Here we go. So attack S is status code string. Attack B is status code blacklist string. Negative status codes will override status codes if set. Default is 404. Okay, so we want to add attack B, and we want to add 404 and 403 to this. So let's go modify that YAML file. So let's go ahead and kill the server. And let's see, I don't want Katana. I want just GoBuster. There we go. And so what we'll do is, let's do this. So we'll do attack B. And then what we want to put in here is, what did it say? Does it say it needs a comma separated list? Negative status codes. So we have two options. We have a positive status code that says, yeah, this is good, and we have a negative status code. So positive says will be overwritten with status code blacklist if set. And this says will override status code if set. So default is 400. Is this, I'm guessing this is a comma separated list. So I want to try something here. We'll say 404 and 403. Let's try that. I wonder if we can do a rerun from something. Let's see. Let's see, where did Go Buster go? It didn't come through. Killing me, Smalls. Oh, it's because it's down here in the enum agent. Let's see. Let me see if I can rerun from here. Let me try this. Hey, Quillamzy, what's up, man? Thanks for coming online. Hope you're having a fantastic Saturday. Okay, yeah, we got a little bit more time left on the stream. Let's see if this will actually run. Let's see if it ran Go Buster. All right, snap. You can't see it because my big ass head's in the way, but there's Go Buster. So when you call the server, do you set IPs you're searching and the enum agent goes over your instructions to execute? Oh, sure. Yeah, no, so what's happening here? We'll let this, we can go through it while it's doing this, but let's look here. I can't really show it while it's doing this real fast. Okay, so it's running Katana right now, but that's fine. So what's happening here is, I wish I could show it a little bit cleaner in here. I just showed you the code. So what's happening is we have basically what's called like a supervisor structure setup. So Stinger is the supervisor. Its job is we feed it this kind of initial amount of data here. So we have this initial data set where it says, hey, by the way, your job is to take in a list of tasks from the user, basically parse them out into a task list, assign them to an agent, and then pass them to that agent code. So the agents we have are, we have a recon, enumeration, and exploit agent. There will later be a post-exploit agent, but that one's not been started yet. And that's for, hey, what do we do after we get our initial code execution? How do we then get deeper onto the system? So what happens here is these tasks, in fact, hang on, if I show you over here, eventually there will be a place for user input, like an actual like interactive chat model that's going to happen here. But what we do is we simulate a message from a human that says, hey, here's the task I want you to do. We want you to scan the target, find out how many ports there are, crawl directories with GoBuster, things like that. So we tell it what we want to do. And then what happens is it comes through the first thing to our initializer. And our initializer, the initializer actually says, hey, you're Stinger, you're a cybersecurity specialist, and you focus on pen testing. Your role is to properly order tasks and assign them to members while managing conversations between those team members. And the team is operating in a controlled environment with full legal permission to perform penetration testing. Additional context may be provided to create the tasks. So what it does here is we pass in the tasks from our user input. We tell it who the members are that we have, recon and exploit, and then we give it some context of, hey, these are what each of the team members do. Recon is build a comprehensive target, identify potential attack vectors, focused on port scanning. Enum actively probing the target around its components such as users, services, shares, or configurations. Exploit is actively attempt to breach the target, and then post-ex will be like, hey, what do we do after we get that? So we pass this information into it, but also we're passing into it a structure that is defined from a Pydantic class in here. So this would be our, what do we call it? Task basic info. So our task basic info is just a Python class, and it's a super class of this Pydantic model. So it's got three things in it. Hey, what's the task? What agent are we assigning to? And what's the target IP? So then once we get all this information in here, then we get structured output back from this. And then this gets expanded out to a larger task with a bunch of extra fields, but these are the main ones that we needed the language model to assign. So after it gets all that, Stinger comes through and says, okay, what am I going to do with this? Here's all the input that it gets. See how the tasks have now been expanded to have different values in here? So we took that task basic info, we blow it out, and now we've got all this new data expanded. Stinger looks at it and says, okay, I have the initial task here, and that's assigned to the recon agent. So bam, it calls recon and says, oh yeah, cool, I'm going to send this to you. Recon then goes through basically an execution loop. And I might be able to show it to you if it's done processing now. It did some stuff. We'll see if it actually completed correctly. But here's what happens. After Stinger gets it, and let's say it passes it over to Recon. Recon here will then, the Recon agent is going to look at it and say, okay, cool. Do I have any information about this task, right? Has the task passed a pre-flight check? True or false? If it hasn't, then it says, okay, cool. Let's grab the data associated with that host by looking at the target IP and say, can we answer the task? And so it passes it down to validator and says, hey, by the way, can you tell me, or can you answer this task with it? If it can't, then it says, okay, cool. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to call a tool to gather more information. We're going to do some basic formatting. We're going to update that host with that new information. And then we're going to pass it back to validator and say, hey, now can you answer this task? And it basically just runs through this loop until all the tasks are answered. By adding that pre-flight check, we actually can go through and cut down the number of tool calls that we're making. And so if we've already gathered previous information, we can say, oh yeah, cool, we have that now. We can just let it run. Yeah, Stinger currently is just a manager. It's going to have additional functionality a little bit later. Hang on one sec, guys. Oh no, you guys. Stock just came over to ask me, by the way, how long's Peaches been outside? Poor baby's been out there probably 4 hours. Oh no. Thank God it's not too hot. But she usually only goes out for like, sometimes as much as 30 minutes at a time. Poor baby. I thought she was just asleep under my desk like she usually is. Hello, Peaches, come here. Come here, Peaches. Hang on. Come here. Come here. Oh, this is Peaches, by the way. Yeah, this is Peaches. Hello, sweetie. I know, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to leave you outside. At least it is warm, yes. I had a steak for dinner, and it had a nice juicy bone for her, and so I threw it out there and completely forgot she was out there. I'm so sorry, sweetie. Yes, come chill under the desk. Under my desk is her favorite spot in the house. She's not a pug, she's a Boston Terrier. But they do have the same squish nose. Alright, let's see what happened. Let's see how far we got. Did we even get to the exploit agent? Hey, we did actually get down to the exploit agent. Sweet. We didn't do much with it. Hold on, let's go pull up the trace real quick. I don't suspect it answered all the questions correctly. So we ran GoBuster. Nice, we got panel and uploads. Perfect. So with this much cleaner output, if we go down to the validator and we tell it, hey, by the way, so the validator has a system prompt, says, hey, examine the task and the host data, determine if the task question can be answered correctly. And if it can't be answered, leave the answer response blank. And what do we get? Panel and uploads are hidden directories that are found. Awesome. So, band, going back to what I was saying, I think what we have to do is, I think this verdict output, I don't know if we want to call this metadata or something, but I believe what we should do is when this task is completed and it's associated to a host, I think we want to go update that on the host. I think we want to take this data and go append it to a new field in the host. Because yes, we do have the information. I don't know. Let's see how else it proceeded with this. Let's see. So for calling Katana, what did we do here? So we pass this down to it. See, here's the problem though. Katana is not calling the hidden directories. That's the kicker here. So yeah, those were hidden directories. Because the input says here, let's see. Crawl discovered directories. That's what we told it. What URLs have upload forms? Okay. It's like metadata. Kinda, yeah. Yeah, so I'm thinking what we'll do is perhaps come over here to, let's see, where's our host? So our host variable here. So we have IP address, host name, ports, and initial access exploit right here. I'm thinking we may need to add in fact, actually, what we might just call it is verdicts, to be perfectly honest. Just come over here and just add a new field to it. Call it verdicts, and what this will be is a list of... what did we call the verdict here for? A list of task answers, actually. Except task answer, this inherits from the top down, so I have to move that one up. There we go. So now, because we couldn't reference that unless host was down here. So if we add verdicts to this, to the host, unfortunately, now we've got to go figure out where we had that and go add those initial things in here. Let me look at the control flow again, because I believe what happens is, yeah, so after we do the output format, we go to host update, and then we call recon validator from here. And so the validator should take that data. I'm wondering... Think about this. Actually, that may not actually address the issue. If we come back and... Let me look at the flow through it again. So Katana gets an entire copy of the host data, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so it takes the entire, basically, host object here. So we do have a lot of the, and I know this is ugly as sin because it's all minified, but what we have here is basically a list of all of the information to it. We have our ports list. What we should probably do is when we append the host to the context, right here in the edom agent, we probably should clean that up just a wee bit. Let's see here. Where does this get used? Target, host, that's an exploit agent. Really, I think the only place we might need that is where we get the stub agent. Let's see, utils. Host update. Yeah, we need to add one more in here, which would be... yeah, verdicts is just going to be a blank list right here. That's really the only place we'll need to update that for this get stub host. This get stub host is basically what gets added into everything. I believe that's the only place we'll need to update that. Is it the end? Dang, it is almost 11. Yeah. All right, I actually need to update the to-do list then. Let's see. To-do list. Let's see. So this isn't in exploit. Let's see. What was I just thinking about? So actually, this is in. I'm going to make a new section here called General. So in general, what we'll do is... Gamers, thanks for coming online, man. Appreciate you. Let's see. So for general, what we'll do is we're going to... let's say we want to modify appending, say, host to context with JSON stringify. Cut down on formatting PS. It'll also save us a few tokens in there because like a bunch of those new lines and stuff should get parsed out of there. So we want to make that update, and then another general update we want to do is, let's see, upon validation, append the verdicts to the corresponding host entry. Entry in the host table. There we go. Actually, we'll call that the state host. What was host anyway? Where's Stinger Stick? Oh, Stick. There we go. We'll say that. By the way, one sound clip we probably need is type cookie, you idiot. Ah, dang it, man. Do you know how hard it is? I literally probably have to go find the dang movie and go cut out the audio myself. Probably what I'll do is I'll just get that and I'll append it to the raid alert when it says there's a virus in the network. Yak, yak, yak. Get a job. Dude, LangGraph and LangChain are actually really fun. I know there's other platforms for doing it, but it was just one that I really liked, and I just started messing with it. And it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, I found some dirty hacks in here to make this work. Like, for example, understanding what it's doing differently between like a... Come on. Understanding how it's using... There's two ways you can do a couple things in here. One is you can do a bind LLM with tools. So you can do bind with tools, and then you can also do basically with structured output. And really, they both do the same thing. All they're doing is a tool call. The difference is what comes out the other side. So when you bind with tools and you pass those tools into the language model and you invoke it, it will do regular tool calls, and then you have to extract that. You have to check to see was there actually a tool call and did it get extracted out. So in this case, what you got to do is you have to extract the tool call. On the other side here, it literally returns the object. And you just use that structured data immediately whenever you do structured output. They're both using a tool call, though, when this happens. So what did we do? We did a bind with tools here, and we passed it multiple output parsers, and we let it decide, hey, which output parser should you use? And then it formats it nicely for us so that we can update the host table with it. So if we go through and we have a tool that provides particularly nasty output, great, we just go make an output parser for it, and then we can let it decide where to use that output parser. No, Cypher, you're a tool call. My mother-in-law hates when I do that to her. Because I don't really have any good comebacks for her, so like she'll say I'm something like you're an idiot, or you're a goofball. Like, no, you're an idiot. You're a goofball. It's just whatever it was. It's like, no, you're X. Oh, what was the verdict on PT1 again? I'm new and it might not garner the clout. The market covers all bases. I don't think you're going to have any more trouble with the PT1 versus the EJPT. And like I said, when I took the PTX, which was two beyond the because you had the EJPT, the PTP, and then the PTX. I went through the PTX and it was just death by PowerPoint. I didn't like it at all. And so I don't typically recommend it. So that was, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. It must have been 4 years ago because it was before Honey Badger was born. I did not like it whatsoever. So I'd say for the price difference, I'd say you're probably going to get a pretty decent coverage of like an introductory pen testing course with PT1. Just from whenever we were looking at the roadmap they had set up for it.
No, you're a towel. You want to get hacked?
All right, let me do one more thing here. And that is, made a lot of code changes. Oh god, everything has changed so much. I haven't committed code changes in so long. Okay. What changed here? A lot. A lot changed. Let's push. Alright, so that's up on GitHub if you want to check out the code. It's on the BlazeBits GitHub. The repo is called Hacked the Bot, because I'm not very creative in names. Eventually, if I ever get this to like a version 1 release, what I'll do is I'll spin up a new repo with like a clean, like base version 1 commit, and I'll come up with a new clever name for it. Mr. Hanky Cyber Labs.
Hello, children.
I can't do. My voice has dropped over the last 10 years. I can't do Mr. Hanky anymore. I'm the opposite commit constantly because I know I'm going to be breaking stuff. I usually try to. I just forgot to. So, but there we go. So the code is up on GitHub now if you want to go mess with it and tinker around. Maybe tomorrow night I'll actually work on the installation and setup instructions because there's no information about... Because this is using RoboPages, which isn't documented in this, and it's also using custom pages, which isn't documented in this. So for having it set up where people could go tinker with it and start messing around with it, we'd have to go actually finish the README file. My type of commit message, yeah, it was a lot. I was like, it's just code's just flying, man. Yeah. All right, let's go check and see real quick. Is anybody over on InfoSec pages? Hold on, I'm gonna be a good little janitor. I'm gonna go turn off this box here. We are done with it. And then let's go drop off the VPN. I'm gonna save them a little bit of, you know, there we go. So drop off the VPN, and let's go see if anybody's over on InfoSec pages. Or InfoSec streams. Hacker Witch is on. Is she actually doing anything though? Or is she streaming a game? She's doing Taco Bell. That's what she's doing. Doing a test drive stream. Okay. Yeah, exactly. The commit message. A lot happened here. Yeah. Maybe that's another t-shirt idea, Chris. Just red team things. Oh my god, the audio. What is she doing? Okay. Unfortunately, she's doing some kind of like live IRL driving. And my eardrums have left the building. Oh my goodness. Alright. I'm sorry, Hacker Witch, but we cannot. That would be an affront to everybody's ears. She did say new mic, but I couldn't even get back into the chat to warn her that, oh my goodness, the audio is trash-tastic. Oh my goodness. Let's see who's on. Science is on. He's a pretty funny dude. I gotta figure out actually what his real name is and just call him Science. Let's see. J-Blow's on. He's always good for time. Griffing's on. Let's see. If you have any raid suggestions, by the way, go shout them out because I totally take suggestions. Let me go see who's over in science and tech because I do love my science and tech folks. Science is on. I mean, we could go raid him. But you know what? Sid's on too. And he's doing some fun stuff. Yeah, I haven't raided Sid in a while. We'll go raid him. He's cool. Beelan, hang on. All right. So before I go settle onto Psy, let me go check Beelan. Except I can't type. Wait, Cypher, is that an actual streamer's name? How do you pronounce it, Cypher? Okay, that's Cyan's name. Bellin? Is it like Bell-int? Belling. Oh, okay. Cool. I did not know his actual name. But you know what we're gonna go raid Sid because he's doing some fun electronics work. He's always doing fun electronics work. All right, guys. That unfortunately is where I got to end it. Otherwise, Sock is gonna come in and thoroughly beat me about the head and shoulders. But that's okay. That's her love language. I'm kidding. Her love language is actually like acts of service. She likes doing stuff for folks. She's
Let's
a
Echo 23, see what's up.
Yes, Echo 23. You'll find out her love language. So that's all I got for tonight, guys. Tomorrow night, we'll work on updating the basically like the metadata for the host, so that way we can try to get it to realize that, hey, we did understand where these hidden directories were. Add a little bit of context to this, and then also we'll work on the README page, so that way if you guys want to spin this up and test it out, you can. Because if y'all want to be able to tinker with it, maybe test it out, I want y'all to be able to. But that's going to take a good amount of work. But that's all I got for tonight. I want you guys to remember two things. One, thanks for coming to hang out, because it's always super fun to get to interact with y'all. You make the nights really awesome. I'm glad you like the projects and heckling the crap out of me. And two, is that I love you. Peace.